Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the second session towards generative AI HackDay on 11th April, that's tomorrow. Yesterday we had the first session, a wonderful session I have reached on AI pipelines, AI deployment. So we have today with us Vivek Singhal sir, uh, who is the co-founder and chief data scientist at CellStrat. CellStrat is a global AI lab. Uh, there's a lot of work on cutting edge R&D in AI, ML, DL, and in particular, the top of the town, which is generative AI. Um, so our students have already started exploring the CellStrat Hub, which is a platform for deploying AI implementations, develop and launch AI projects. So I personally thank you, Vivek sir, for your guidance, your support. This hackathon idea is solely from you because of which we are able to conceive things, put them together, and tomorrow hopefully we'll be able to realize it. Thank you so much once again for the guidance and the support. Also for sponsoring this particular hackathon in the form of the prizes. Tomorrow the session will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it's a 12-hour hackathon. We expect all the participants to be here on time. It will start at 7 a.m. in the Department of AI/ML at the Singhal College of Engineering, fifth floor to be precise, of AI/ML block. Sir and Sister Shankons, I'll start will be here to mention you all and they'll be available to help you with whatever is required in the implementation aspect as much as possible. By this time, I know most of the teams are ready with their ideas and have already begun implementing some of their ideas. So hopefully tomorrow by the end of the day, we will be able to get those solutions into running prototypes so that we all will be visualizing some innovation as the in the field of generative AI. Vivek sir, over to you for the talk on generative AI, overview of generative AI, which is today's mostly when it comes to AI, generative AI is what pops up, and what is happening in the field of AI today is what will, it is disruptive, it is crazy, it change the way things work in the domain of AI, and CellStrat being the pioneer in AI, in generative AI, and an overview on this coming from you means a lot. So over to you, sir.
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks for that intro. Thanks to the Anand Sagar Department of AI/ML at the Anand Sagar and Professor Vindhya, the HOD there, for this collaboration. It is a great pleasure to work with the DSCE faculty and students for generative AI innovation. I think ma'am already introduced me, so I'll just keep it brief on that. So I run CellStrat AI Lab, which is an AI platform startup, and we are trying to do some major work in generative AI, and hence our objective is to really drive intense generative AI revolution, and coming from India, and we hope to think of ourselves as, or at least aspire to be like an open AI kind of organization coming from India. And of course, it's an ecosystem effort with several university partnerships and community and thousands of students as well to do cutting edge AI innovation. So let's get started. I'm going to turn off my video to have better bandwidth. So just let me tell you the thesis we are looking at. So the philosophy behind this HackDay and what we are trying to do. So I started referring to it briefly. Generative AI is breaking out. It's like mind-boggling. It's like in the last 6 months, the word seems to have changed with the launch of ChatGPT. We see the whole world, is like going gaga about it. And actually, I had a friend call me this morning He's a US Atlanta-based executive in Salesforce.com, and he is visiting his native here in India. And this morning he said he can't meet a company in the US right now which doesn't want to get into AI. Okay, I mean, he's saying industries as sort of non-related as cold storage or agriculture or supply chain, manufacturing, retail, financial services, media, journalism, content, you name it, everything is under play. And there was a report which came out earlier which said 20% of US jobs are going to be impacted by ChatGPT. And then Goldman Sachs published another report which says 80% of US jobs are directly or indirectly impacted by solutions like ChatGPT. And I'm sure all of us are already using it for generating code or maybe writing small form papers or answering our assignments. So there is a debate, of course, whether the students should be using these tools. But our view is that I think we need to find ways of inculcating these tools into our educational pedagogy rather than trying to battle them. I mean, technological evolution is inevitable, right? So it is going to, yes, make things easier, and perhaps even for students and the educators it will inhibit learning because the creative potential is being reduced when you use chat gpt kind of tools for your assignments or code generation. But however, we can't fight the trend, so we might as well leverage it and see how we can go to next level of human intelligence and use these tools to produce even more sophisticated code, papers, assignments, and so forth, right? So rather than trying to fight this trend, many universities have banned chat gpt on campus. But I'm saying we can't fight it, so let's leverage it to make education better and check creative potential of students in different other ways. So there are other ways maybe where faculty can test the students, because chat gpt will certainly commoditize or make it way too easy for many to generate content, right? So chat gpt is of course in the text paradigm. We are also talking about image generation with algorithms like stable diffusion and daily from openai again. So what has happened is, due to the $1 billion VC investment which Microsoft made in OpenAI, which was a leading AI lab out of Silicon Valley in 2019. Now Microsoft is holding the upper hand in technological evolution in this AI space, and even Google had to issue a code red, which is basically saying that their $200 billion ad revenue business model was under threat, because with OpenAI, Microsoft can do better job of search paradigm, make the search a conversational experience rather than just a simple search of global internet links. So, I mean, last 6 months, you can't open paper or any media portal without reading a lot about generative AI, and hence the problem in these algorithms is that they are changing at a breakneck pace. Okay, so by the time we learn something next week, there's already a new version in town, and so how do we all keep up with it, right? And that is what I was discussing with the Professor Vindhya, and the idea came that let's do sort of a series of hack days, if you will, right? So we don't have like a time to learn these new algos in a 3 month, 6 month, 1 year course curriculum. By that time it will all be many versions later. Things would have changed. So let's resort to what we call as agile innovation, so where we do hack days frequently and bring all of us up to speed and launch some products like overnight. And that's really the only way to keep pace with the evolution in these AI technology and the algorithms which are coming at a breakneck pace at us, right? So while we may do the regular curriculum of our BTech, MTech, or whatever program we are in, but reality is that we have to parallelly develop a very agile learning process through hackathons, frequent webinars, and workshops like this, sort of develop a very rapid learning environment. And that is the thesis behind the Hack Day tomorrow. So we are challenging you all the students at DSCE, can you launch some products by end of tomorrow? So that is the test. And I hope after the yesterday's workshop, many of you have already formed your teams and started working. So in 48 hours, you have to churn out some products. So I run this community-driven startup CellStrat AI lab, where I often challenge my community to do the work of 3 months in 1 week now. And that is how the clients are hoping to get, So we started signing up US clients a few months back. And in India, there's a lot of hype, but we were facing challenge in commercial projects in AI. The moment we started marketing our services in US, we started getting good number of clients fairly easily, given the large AI marketplace and community we have to showcase to business development in during the process of business development. So and the clients are expecting like magical stuff from us, and literally I want to showcase one. So I'll keep the session today very informal. I don't have a fixed PPT or a project to demonstrate to you. It's a very vast area. It's evolving at a breakneck pace. And many of my community members in my company have been presenting excellent webinars and workshops in these areas. So I'm going to leverage some of the content they have been presenting, their PPTs, and some of the projects they are showcasing to keep it informal. And I'm actually personally not that hands-on. I'm more of a manager of my AI research group rather than personally a developer at the moment, given what I need to do as an overall entrepreneur. So, any questions before we get into some of the AI algos of generative AI? I hope all of you are primed and excited to participate in the Hack Day tomorrow. So we are expecting or challenging you to do incredible work by end of tomorrow. That is the goal. Any comments, questions?
So we also have some students from first years and second years. First years in particular, any inputs to them, sir, before they start their? Some of them are participating for the first time in any of the hackathon. So any inputs to them, sir?
So yeah, so this hackathon is an excellent way, or hacking sessions is an excellent way to rapidly upskill. Because as I said, we will have the usual BTech curriculum, and when we'll have MLDL, computer vision, NLP courses as part of comp science or AI curriculum. And some of you are not from comp science or AI branches, not to worry. It is, this is about upskilling. Who has the drive to upskill themselves? And so it's not like limited to comp science branch students. So pretty much students across branches are learning these technologies, and sometimes they correlate to their other branches like civil, mechanical, civil, electrical, electronics. But even if not, then that those engineering concepts they learn in other branches are very much applicable here in terms of the algorithmic knowledge. And for first and second year students, hackathon is really, really important to participate in, because if let's say I were to hire somebody from college for internship, or I would be looking at their GitHub profile, I'll be looking at their hackathon participation and wins, right? So just making a simple resume is no longer enough. You have to showcase projects. You have to have a growing GitHub account. And that's how the most prime jobs will be granted, or internships. And the difference, the packages we see for trained computer science professionals, whether from comp science branch or other branches, can vary from 3 lakh per annum all the way to maybe a crore per annum. So the range is very wide, and it really depends on what you're able to showcase in terms of your GitHub profile, your hackathon participations, even your research papers, and so forth. So aggression is name of the game, but it's not boring. AI is addictive. It's very addictive. Once you get into machine learning, you'll start enjoying the challenge of AI, machine learning, and it's not at all boring that you have to cram lots of stuff. It's lots of algorithmic knowledge and applying that through Python or R programming. Any other comments, questions? Okay, so Let's get going with some of these generative AI algos. Uh, so I'll share my screen. I'll be sharing random content from my community presentations. I don't have a fixed PPT, as I said, because there's so much to cover, and I, as an individual, can't present do justice to this topic called generative AI overview. So I'm going to leverage the content which my community has already presented. I hope you can see my screen. So
Yes.
yeah. This is the platform which I run in my startup. It's called CellStrat, which is an AI Ops or ML Ops platform. It has a projects marketplace which you can use to jumpstart your AI development. So the Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebook environment is integrated here. So basically, if you have been using local Anaconda Jupyter Notebooks or Google Colab or GitHub or Google Drive to store your models and data sets, it's all in one-stop shop platform. For example, for computer vision, we have these projects which are can be used as jumpstart project. So while this is a great marketplace, but the funny thing about this whole thing is that these algos are changing at such a crazy pace. By the time we launch one of these project packs, as we like to call it, there's already new algos in town. For example, if I were to show you the OpenAI project pack here, Clip is still very much relevant because it's being used in GPT and Chat GPT. For Delhi, we have Delhi 1 here, but there's already Delhi 2. And we have Image GPT, which is not sure where it is. We have GPT 4 now, and this project was on GPT 2 here. So it's changing at a mind-boggling pace, which is both a challenge and an opportunity. So you can check out any number of these projects by logging in and have a jumpstart project development going on right here in the Jupyter Lab workspace. We also have ready-made what we call as AI as a service. So in yesterday's session, our team lead Bhavesh showed you how to deploy an AI model as an API, and we already have some pre-trained models being serviced or rendered as an API. So this is a typical client-server architecture where you can consume this API for your full stack AI project, and the URL of that API is given here along with the JSON payload, right? Input and output handshake protocol using JSON web service. So those who have done some level of web development, I'm sure for you all of this basic web infrastructure is very second nature to you. Those who have not done web development, then this is basically a client server architecture paradigm where certain cloud services are modeled or like AI models are rendered as an API, which can be integrated easily into all kinds of clients, including web app, mobile app, etc. Some of you may have tried the Postman API infrastructure. So it is similar to that, I would say, or Hugging Face APIs. Okay, so we have an API marketplace. We also have client apps here, which were developed on a React web client. And I can simply run the object detector in images. I can upload an image and run it here, right? So we have a full stack AI app as well as an API for the same task. We have Jumpstart projects. So this is sort of our, Jumpstart AI platform. If you have not yet signed up, you can sign up here. For the hack day tomorrow, it is absolutely not required to use this platform. If you want to develop in Google Colab or the Python Flask stack, Heroku server, or a SageMaker AWS directly, or Azure ML stack, or Vertex or Google Cloud Stack from Google, by all means. So it's just that we develop this platform, so for us it's easier to support this. But by all means, you can have your project tomorrow on the stack of your choice. So let me just sign in here. So this is our AI Ops platform, which has full stack projects and APIs. You can leverage this or have your own model as well. And I can check out any number of project packs here. I have already checked out these, so it's grayed out. So let's say I want to check out the computer vision pack. All I have to do is click here and just get this pack, right? And these set of projects will be added to my Jupyter Notebook account. So, so there's a lot of information to grasp. Let's keep it interactive. You can ask questions. And as I said, I'm going to go a bit informally today. I don't have a well-defined format with a PPT and such. So I'm going to start the workspace, and then it will take 2 to 3 minutes to assign me an EC2 instance on our AWS cloud. And then I will be able to start the AWS instance. I'll start Jupyter Lab on my AWS instance here once this shows working or active. Okay, so and then when you can deploy AI models easily here as an API, and you can connect it with an API endpoint key. Those who have done full stack web development should be familiar with all this. And then I can deploy my private models here, and then connect my AI models with the API access key, and it will show here. I can create new API keys. So this infrastructure basically allows us to do billing and metering. So it's a usage-based billing. So right in the free tier, each free tier user has access to up to 5 model deployments here and up to 1,000 cumulative API calls in a month. But that said, for purposes of this hackathon, we will be happy to upgrade any of your accounts to the Gamma tier, which is a GPU tier, which has a lot more capacity in number of APIs or storage and all that. Okay. So just introducing the AI Ops platform, which we have for you to do jumpstart, or we also call it a low code, no code AI platform, right? If you were to use if you were to consume our AI APIs, it will basically be a no code AI, consumption into your client stacks. And if you use our project marketplace, then we are giving you ready-made project packs, and you are doing what we call as low code or relatively less code. You can do jumpstart AI development. So in the AI deployment workshop, Bhavesh showed a jumpstart process of launching your AI models here as an API, and those AI models will appear under your private deployment dashboard here. So what has been going on with AI in the last 5 years? What happened in the last 6 months, right? So let's understand the evolution of AI slightly. That gives us perspective how to go forward in this domain. So 5 years, lot of such GitHub repositories, right? And Hugging Face and OpenAI algorithms and Google DeepMind, which are AI lab of Google. So, and we are here. So we are launching this AI Ops platform, these project marketplaces, these API marketplaces, right? But really, there was a disconnect from the business user, if you will. So what happened in the last 5 years was this massive AI talk. All the universities have launched BTech and AI program, and there's a lot of hiring also going on. So the job market has been good for a few years now, and very lucrative, I would say, for AI developers. But it was not taking off in the sense the businesses were kind of clueless what to do with AI, right? So the from the R&D and the educational industry to businesses, there was a big disconnect. And in last 6 months, something happened. So that I would say the Chat GPT was the inflection point. And when OpenAI launched Chat GPT, that sort of suddenly took out it was an inflection point. Let me just log in into my Chat GPT account here. Just a moment. I'll have to give me a sec. I'll just log in into my Chat GPT account here. So we have a professional OpenAI account. So it is a nominal charge of $20 per month but for students and researchers, not really required. You can remain on the free account. Just a moment. Let me log in into my OpenAI account. I'm sure most of you are already using ChatGPT for a variety of things. And if you are not, then I do encourage you to try it out. It's amazing. The use cases of such algos like large language model, continue to surprise us indeed. Okay, I was able to log in. Let me share my screen again. So I'm logged into the OpenAI account we have, and you can of course ask it questions like why are hackathons so important, right? And it will try to answer, right? It was pretty fast there. I guess one of the reason it's fast for us is because we do have a professional account. I think in the free account it's slightly slower, but still good enough, right? So you can ask it anything. You can ask it to write code for AI models itself, and it does incredible job. It writes fairly accurate code, right? So let's say I want to write a code for write a Python code specifically for object detection in an image using TensorFlow, right? So TensorFlow is an open source API or a library from Google for writing, deep neural network codes, as you know. So it is able to spit out code amazingly well, and pretty much all the developers I know are using this to generate some baseline code at least. And oftentimes you'll have to customize it, but it does generate incredibly good code. Right, so it's generating the ask was write Python code for object detection in an image using TensorFlow. So it is generating, it's using OpenCV library. Some of you might recognize it, which is called CV2, and for reading the input image from your hard disk right here, and then resize the image to 224 by 224 pixels, and then normalize the image by dividing 255, because 0 to 255 is the coding of a pixel imaging, and then doing a model predict. So okay, model is already there. So there is already a model. So it's saying, okay, it is assuming there's already a model in my path here. It's doing model.predict. Okay. So I can, okay, so I can see if it will pick up my previous context. Well, I wanted Python. So the above is an inference code. What you see above is inference code. So it is assuming I'm providing an AI model in this path, and is going to read that input image as well from this path and just do inference. So model.predict is just prediction or inference, but really I want training code. So it maintains context, which means that it is essentially able to understand what I asked previously, and now I think is going to generate the training code. Yes, so it generated a inference code, because in AI ML, there are three basic steps: data preparation, training, and inference, right? Generally we'll keep 80-90% of data for training, 10-20% for testing. So now it's generating it's creating a TensorFlow tf1.x. In fact, now we have tf2.x. So v1 means tf1.x library of TensorFlow. It's creating a TensorFlow estimator, and then a tf record set. So now it created the model training code. Previously, it created model inference code. So now it is training the model here and doing train and evaluate. Okay. So it creates a really remarkable code. And one of my associates told me about GitHub Copilot. Some of you may want to try that. I think it's a paid software, so you have to pay for it. But this is even sophisticated. So it's called AI pair programming. Let me just accept these people. Just a moment. So GitHub Copilot is even more sophisticated for generating code, particularly. So I think you have to pay some nominal subscription fee for that, but you can try it. But ChatGPT does well, but GitHub Copilot does even better. I think GitHub Copilot is also, GitHub is a Microsoft-owned company, and so is OpenAI. So GitHub Copilot was trained using GPT, I'm sure GPT-3 or 4, I suppose. And so you can see how these things are working. I can write poems, write a poem on Indian summer, right? So I just say write a poem on Indian summer, and it is now estimating the answer, right? So you can see it's amazing what it can do. So you can say that even we are all developers, right? At the end of the day, if we are in computer science careers, We are all developers. So our jobs are also going to be impacted in not so subtle ways. We have to upskill on these technologies. We cannot be basic developers. Basic development you can outsource to GitHub Copilot or Chat GPT now. So we have to become good solution architects or learn these latest techniques to leverage these tools and not be hurt by these tools, if you will, right? So even data scientists have worked very hard to make themselves also unemployed in effect, right? Because if it can write code, it can write design documents, and of course, it is going to impact all kinds of creators, whether video creators, image creators, and so forth, and because it's generating images as well. So here is a poem on the Indian summer for you. And you can see it has good rhyming going on, if you notice. It is able to do good rhyming and all. So can somebody guess how GPT or Chat GPT is able to produce good code? You may already know the answer. It's rather trivial. Why GPT or Chat GPT is able to produce good, high quality code? Can you guess? You may already know the answer actually. It's a rather trivial answer. See, it is able to produce poems and blogs and articles because it's trained on global internet data, right? Internet scale data sets are available, right? Say this something called Lior data set, I think, which is internet scale data set. So it has learned the text from global internet pages and images as well. But why is it, what about code? Why is it able to produce good code? Any guesses? You may know the answer actually, some of you. Well, as I said, the answer is somewhat trivial because it is trained on GitHub, right? So GitHub has the global source code. So, and interestingly, OpenAI and GitHub are both owned by Microsoft. So they have access to the global. So all of us like to keep our code in GitHub, right? And guess what? So we have paid to these companies while we get a lot of free tools like ChatGPT, but we have paid with data. All of us have paid with our data to these big tech companies who are training their AI models using our data. So using your and my code in GitHub, they have trained the model to write good code as well. It has learned the coding features. Okay. All right. So that was a somewhat trivial answer there. And so you can see ChatGPT. You can see GitHub Copilot, which is an excellent, pair programmer, if you will. And you can use these tools to generate baseline code and then try to do more sophisticated work. Baseline code is now outsourced to these tools. Okay, even your assignments and your articles and your research papers. Let's say write a research paper on GANs. I don't know what it will do. I'm just trying it. GANs are generative adversarial networks, which was the original generative AI techniques. Writing an abstract. It's trying to write a pretty decent research paper, it seems to me. Wow. Yeah, he's doing a pretty good job. So, and it is pretty accurate as well because GANs were introduced by Professor Ian Goodfellow, in 2014. He's a professor at University of Montreal, and he was working with, I think, his guide. I forgot his name, and they have this deep learning book. So yeah, it is writing, literally, it's writing a research paper for me on basics of GAN, right? So just mind-boggling. So, I mean, this is the front end in what we call, this is a conversational AI, if you will, right? This is trained using the input-output prompt paradigm. The underlying algo is still trying to generate or what? So I think it truncated for some reason, maybe, not sure why. So anyway, it was a long form answer, so it was a pretty good job to begin with. Okay, so anybody who has been using ChatGPT, can you tell me when I asked it to write a research paper on GANs, it is writing a pretty decent introductory paper on what is GAN and how it came about, who invented it, why it truncated here. We do have some researchers from CellStrat AI lab. Anybody knows the answer to why it truncated it and stopped in between? Because this account is using the professional version of ChatGPT which is $20 per month. Shreyas, Pawar, or anybody else, do you know why I truncated my research paper and didn't complete it, or give a logical ending at least?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that is some demo of the Chat GPT. So now we got a client. I'm just going a little informal here. I hope you'll bear with me. Our client's name is Age of AI Capital, and this is a company based in Austin. So we started working for this client about 1.5 months back in my company, and they initially gave us a project on creating an Alexa speaker on an iOS device, right? So we have to port all the AI models such as speaker detection, speech, diarization, and port it to an iOS on-device app. So that was the first project. We are still doing that for this client. And then about 2 weeks back, this client calls me and they say, we want to create a Chat GPT competitor in 24 hours. So this was the ask from my client, this client. This was, I think, around 19th of Feb or something on a Sunday morning. So I said, I told this client, sir, maybe, we are not open yet. We don't have that level of capability to create a Chat GPT competitor in 24 hours. They pushed us to do it. And yes, so some of our AI researchers came along and we launched freedomgpt.com in about 24 hours. So by Monday, we had a web version of this running. And this is our product, which in CellStrat we launched this. It is a ChatGPT competitor. We of course didn't train a large language model like GPT. We are using the open source model, which is called Alpaca. Alpaca LLM is a simplified version of the Llama LLM from, it goes to the alpaca animal. So alpaca is created by Stanford University, and they basically trained an instructional chatbot using the Meta Llama model. So Meta Llama is it's a 65 billion parameter large language model, and it was released by Facebook AI team, because Facebook is also a major AI player. And of course, the third big one is Google Bard, which hasn't done so well so far. But Google has had an internal code name for it called Lambda, LAMDA, before, and they tried to launch Bard against ChatGPT, but it didn't do so well. So it was giving somewhat inaccurate answers. So the Facebook answer to ChatGPT is Llama, which is a foundation model, as we call it, also called a large language model, is trained on internet scale data set. And so this is actually a foundational model. It didn't have conversational capability, right? So GPT is a foundational LLM, large language model. Llama is also a foundational LLM. And I think the LAMDA from Google is also a foundational LLM. Yeah. So okay. So this is conversational by default. So one is having a foundational model, right, which is trained on internet scale text data sets, right? That is one idea. Then on top of that, developing conversational model, right? So two different concepts. One is a foundational LLM or large language model, and on top of that, creating a conversational capability by training it on prompt data set. Prompt data set means that you give it a training data. Training data will include instructional data, like what for this question, what should be the answer. So it is able to do a chat with you, right? So creating a chatbot from a foundational LLM. So among different foundational LLM, Meta Llama is big one from Facebook or Meta AI team, right? 65 billion parameter large language model, very powerful, almost as good as GPT-3, I think, of OpenAI. And then Stanford University took the open source Llama model and created what is called the Alpaca, which is essentially a lightweight version, or not a lightweight version, but a conversational version of Meta Llama, right? So we are discussing foundational models of large language models, and then we are discussing developing a conversational AI model on top of the foundational LLM, right? So Llama is the foundational model from Meta. Stanford Alpaca is the conversational layer above that. Okay, similar to GPT, and then Chat GPT on top of GPT. So GPT is just an LLM, and Chat GPT is actually the conversational interface to GPT LLM. Okay, Chat GPT is a conversational interface to the GPT LLM. So feel free to have your questions or ask anything if you have. We are having a general conversational on generative AI, not a well-defined PPT, if you will. Any comments, questions? Okay, so far so good. So just discussing so as I was telling you about my client use case, and somewhat we are proud about it. So last week before our web server crashed because of the massive load on our web server on this product became viral. This is our client's product, but we in CellStrat are the developers of this, and our Netlify React web client, it crashed because of the load, because we were getting, at last count I checked last week, we were getting 55,000 daily active users, about 1,000 users every half an hour we were getting on this. So it has two versions. This Chat GPT competitor which we launched, it has the web version where it is a client server environment. We have launched the open source Alpaca model as an API on our CellStrat Hub AWS cloud. So this is being rendered as an API on our EC2 instance of our AWS cloud, right? So just like you saw in CellStrat Hub, the API rendering facility, we are rendering the Alpaca model as an EC2 API from our AWS cloud. And that API is being called by our React web client, which is this one. And so this is how we have a client server Freedom GPT architecture, right? So I'm just telling you the modalities of, or the solution architecture of this product. And but then, so this was from Sunday to Monday, we launched the web version, and it was immediately overloaded because it started going viral. And then our client issued a PR on this, because the client is a VC firm in Austin. They issued a PR, in BuzzFeed News, which is a major tech portal out of Silicon Valley. And after this product went viral, and it is controversial because this is an uncensored chatbot. It's an uncensored, it is rather controversial, and that is one of the reasons why it went viral. The second, because ChatGPT will stop you, it is being censored, right? ChatGPT has guardrails in place. You can't ask it to how to make a bomb or conduct terrorist activity or how to overthrow a government. Whereas with our product here, you can ask it anything, and you can ask it how to overthrow a government. But the problem with this web version was we are using a single EC2 instance, whereas ChatGPT is working on a massive cloud cluster. Being that OpenAI is owned by Microsoft, they have a massive Azure cloud cluster going on, or a web farm. We don't have that financial ability. So our client calls us Tuesday morning and said, we want to launch this as a downloadable product. So I'll wait for 30 seconds. It will time out, because even now I think we have few thousand daily active users, and it is not able to service the massive load we are getting. So this is a Freedom GPT competitor, not as good as ChatGPT, but close. So then our client challenged us to overnight launch a web download version. Again, I told my client I can't do it, but they pushed me. Again, my team came through, and we were able to launch a Mac download version. So those of you who are having Mac, I encourage you to test it out. It runs on the new Mac chips. You can download it. It will download a 800 MB DMG file, and it downloads pretty fast, or 80 MB DMG file on your Mac, the newer Macs, M1, M2 chips only, or Apple Silicon as we call it. For old style Intel chip Macs, there's a waitlist going on, and for Windows also there's a waitlist going on. So I believe there are more than 20,000 people, or 40,000 people in the Windows waitlist. So we have recently launched the Windows version, the downloadable, but our client is doing, slow launch with the waitlist folks to test it out. So those of you who have the new kinds of Macs M1, M2 chip, feel free to just run it. As soon as you try to run it, it will download the 4 GB model from our it will download the 4 GB model, which is on a GitHub of this client. This is a GitHub of our client. It will download the 4 GB model here. So that will take 2-3 minutes. After that, it will answer questions on your local computer. The advantage of Freedom GPT is it is completely local. It has, even if you are not connected to internet, it will run a Chat GPT style product on your MacBook completely locally. See, Chat GPT does not give you a download version. This product does. Okay. All right. So this was a client, I would say, project which we are somewhat proud of and like to. But as AI product developers, all of us have to start thinking at this pace of innovation. A client did not give us even 1 week to launch the web version or the download version. So we were awake like 4 out of the 7 nights doing this because we were working with the client, having 12-hour war room calls with the client. And so this is the pace of innovation which our clients are expecting. And hence the reason for our HackDay kind of concept. We can't wait on a 3-month project development cycle. By that time, it will be completely overturned. There will be new algos which will do incredibly new stuff. So I hope you understand the reason to conduct this HackDay and really challenging you to, kind of in 1 or 2 days to develop or launch full stack products. At least we'll try, and I'm hoping at least some of you, maybe half of you, hopefully, or 20% of you will be able to launch a full stack product tomorrow, which will completely blow us away. And then we would like to work with you closer as interns to do some upcoming product launches and work in our client projects. So that's the goal, to find interns who can do this level of agile development. And all the rest of you can catch up given your ambition and your drive. It's just only limited by how ambitious we are, how much hard work we are fully willing to put in for a very, very agile innovation. I think let me address any questions.
Yeah. Vivek sir, Abhijit here. One question.
Sure.
Yeah. So if this is uncensored model, will it come into some legal or some security related issues? Someone can ban, some governments can ban it or something like that?
So good question. In fact, I asked my client, what about legal implication? I hope you have the legal defense lined up, because what it is doing, people are asking questions about Republicans and Democrats, the 2 opposing parties in US, and they're asking questions about, unfortunately, about abuse and human trafficking and praising Hitler, and it is successfully answering those questions. It is completely uncensored, unbridled, right? So I couldn't launch this product just between this group and me. I would be scared legally. But this client says they want to drive the legal controversy. And indeed, on Twitter, if you search for Freedom GPT on Twitter, it is igniting a lot of controversy. There's a lot of trolling, and people are calling it a scam, and Democrats are calling it Republican conspiracy, and vice versa, because it will praise or criticize Donald Trump or Joe Biden in equal measure. It will praise Hitler if you wanted to praise Hitler, right? So it is controversial. Our client wanted it that way, and I'm just hoping their legal things are lined up. That's all I can say.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
So we were hosting this on our web server, Netlify. One of the reasons Netlify banned our account was maybe this one, because it was inviting a lot of abuse or trolling on Twitter because of what it is able to answer. So, but our client's view is AI censoring should not be there, and ChatGPT is trying to decide what should be answered, what should not be. So, our client's view is that if internet answers everything, who is OpenAI to decide what it should answer or not answer, right? So because ChatGPT is supposed to have a liberal or democratic bias. In US, there is a two parties, Democrats, Republican, and most of the tech industry are Democrats actually in US. So the Republicans allege ChatGPT has a liberal or democratic bias. And in fact, many Republicans are liking Freedom GPT and saying this is our answer to the ChatGPT of OpenAI, because this doesn't have any liberal bias. So yeah, so that's the politics of it going on, and on Twitter you'll find a lot of such references. But this is how our client wanted it, and for us it's a technical project, but yes, it has implications, social and ethical implications. Any other comments or questions? So I think the uncensored aspect of it and the fact you can download it, because we are not aware of any other chatbot which is locally downloadable. And in fact, many users on Twitter refuse to believe that a large language model can run completely on the desktop without connection to internet. They're calling it a email collection scam or a political scam or something, or a sort of a Bitcoin mining scam. Some people are calling it on Twitter. But it seems our client is unfazed and they are continuing to grow this ecosystem. See, we in CellStrat, we are merely technical developers, but we also got good attention. We have been covered by DataQuest magazine in India, and yesterday Analytics Vidya also wrote an article on Freedom GPT. Any other comments or questions?
Sir, one last question, Abhijit here again.
Sure.
So these 65 billion parameters, I mean, with the limited compute resources, how could we be able to train them?
We can't train it. We can fine tune these models. Okay. So we can fine tune this, because you need massive cloud capacity to train a foundational LLM, right? So a better approach is, so there are so many open source LLMs now. If you were to see this list, there are quite many open source LLMs. We can use them as a baseline to fine tune the models. Let's say you want to develop a legal, so you are now, the next turn is for domain centric LLM, like legal LLM or healthcare LLM, right, and so on. So there are a lot of open source LLMs now, and there is you can actually train on that. You can fine tune these models to custom use cases, if you will, right?
Got it.
Yeah. So training LLM without having access to massive cloud capacity is difficult. So now there is, I think, something called Plan Family LLM. It's an open source model by Google, and large language model. Yeah, introducing Flan. So there's a Flan family open source LLM from Google. So we can use these to fine tune for or domain centric tasks. Let's say healthcare or biotechnology or retail and financial services. I'm hoping that some of the HackDay projects at Dayanand Sagar tomorrow will try to showcase some fine tuning of LLM situations. So by the way, how can the HackDay participants participate in this? So one is you can call the GPT-4 API. So you can, if you want to develop a client stack, you can simply have an OpenAI account and simply call the GPT API, and you have access to the full GPT prowess into your stack. So you can just integrate the GPT-3 API by creating an OpenAI account, right? So they have given the detailed protocol how to call the GPT API over the cloud, right? And because ChatGPT is just a client, but if you want to have your own client stack for your hack project, then you can call the OpenAI GPT API. You can use a lot of CellStrat Hub APIs as well. We already have some of these being rendered as APIs. Or you can launch your own AI model as an API, or you can consume ready-made APIs. So we have the Whisper GPU, which is speech transcription. It converts speech to text, right? It will convert speech to text. Let me actually demo this to you. Yeah, so it will take some time to load. So let's say I am speaking here, its model is ready, start recording. So we are testing the Whisper GPU API on CellStrat Hub Marketplace. Let's see how it performs. So I've stopped the recording. Let me replay the recording. So I've recorded that audio which I was speaking. I don't know if you could hear that. You can consume this API using a JSON handshake protocol into your hack project, or you can just test it out here. So I'm going to do an AI inference. Now it's going to call the Whisper GPU API hosted on our CellStrat AWS SageMaker. So in CellStrat APIs, we don't support GPU APIs. So we are using the AWS SageMaker MLOps, APIs. We are supporting CPU APIs, but not GPU APIs. So this will take some time because what happens, we don't have these APIs as hot or ready to serve. They are lying in what we call as the cold storage. And so it takes few minutes for the API to revive and start serving. Then it will remain hot for some time. Then it will go back to sleep, sort of. The reason being because it is costing us AWS credits. So we keep the APIs in cold state. And yesterday, Bhavesh also explained that, and it takes some time for the API to wake up and start serving. If we have a project like Freedom GPT, which is calling the Alpaca API on our EC2 instance, we are keeping that hot, and obviously it's incurring higher charges because it's always hot and ready to serve because it's a real-time application. It cannot be in cold storage. But these demos are all in cold, and it takes few minutes to revive them. Okay. So that was sort of the bit of discussion on LLMs. Let me just open some of the workshops our community has presented. Then I'll come to image generation. So there are two kinds of generation broadly, right? One is text generation, which is GPT, Llama, Alpaca, ChatGPT, right? Freedom GPT. The other is image generation using stable diffusion, DALL-E 2 algorithm. Let me see one of the workshops before I go to the image part of it. So recently we presented a very good workshop, and you can find the recording on our YouTube channel, which has been shared, for the DSCE students also and CellStrat communities. So this is sort of the GPT evolution. It refers to generative pre-trained transformers. So there was GPT 1, 2, 3, and now we have 4, of course. So it is continuing to improve and get more and more sophisticated. And as I said, this is what we call as a foundational LLM. ChatGPT is the conversational layer above this LLM. Okay. So it is basically using the transformer architecture. Transformers are a family of neural networks introduced by Google. It's a deep neural network, and it is able to do better job than sequential deep neural networks such as LSTMs or RNN or recurrent neural networks. So transformers have become the de facto standard for a lot of the generative word. So this is generative pre-trained transformer. Let me see anything. So this is able to do zero shot learning. Basically, it is able to learn with limited number of samples. So I'm not going to get into algorithmic details. These are huge topics, and each of these could take like 1 hour each. And we have a lot of webinars on our YouTube channel. If you want to explore these, you simply have to check out. There are lots of YouTube videos, but you can also check out CellStrat YouTube channel, which has been shared with you. And so we have all of these webinars, detailed 1-2 hour webinars on our YouTube channel. Just check them out. I've shared the list with your coordinators here. They can provide that list of webinars to you. We have a lot of stable diffusion webinars, 1 or 2, 3 GPT, ChatGPT webinars. So you can learn the algo by observing these webinars. And for consuming the GPT API, you'll have to create an OpenAI account. And I think their in some cases there will be nominal charge, usage-based billing, but it's really, really small amount. You can probably afford it for 1 or 2 days. Or if you want to use GPT-2 in CellStrat Hub OpenAI pack, there's a GPT-2 Jumpstart project. You can use that as well. But of course, GPT-3 is far, far more sophisticated and accurate in terms of NLP tasks. And ChatGPT, of course, is the conversational version of it. You can't directly invoke ChatGPT. That is just the front end for GPT, LLM. ChatGPT, you can just use it for your core content generation tasks. Now GPT-4 is there, and GPT-4 actually also supports image to text. So far we had text to text, like prompt, input prompt, text output. Now we also have image to text, which is coming up in GPT-4. Not yet available, but it will be available in near future as per GPT announcement. Okay, so because of the use cases of this ChatGPT, I think it's breaking out. There isn't a company probably on the planet which is not thinking of generative AI now. Sure, in US, every company is talking about or discussing how to incorporate AI into their businesses. Think of all generative tasks, content, image creation, designers, bloggers, graphic designers, interior designers, coders, all the coders like us, right? All students, all faculty, assignment creators, answering the assignments. Everything is under play. Okay, so that was a discussion about the LLMs, GPT, ChatGPT, and such. Any questions before I switch gears to image generation? Yesterday also in the workshop I noticed, and today also I have the same feeling. This crowd is rather quiet. It's all right. It's okay to be quiet. I was a very shy student myself. Later on, when I went to corporate sector, I was forced to present in front of lots of audience, and I kind of opened up and developed the stage speaking skills and I took a lot of classes. I've been a visiting faculty now. So I'm used to speaking a lot now and don't feel shy. But really, you see, it's okay. It's okay. But the point is outcome. The outcome is we have to launch cutting edge projects and products quickly. So if it means asking your questions, and even if they are basic or you feel it will be too trivial to ask, don't shy, because only thing which matters is outcome. Can we launch cutting edge products and projects overnight, right? Because if we can, we'll be, those resources which the whole world is seeking. In India alone, there are lakhs of data scientist jobs which are unfulfilled right now or not able to find talent. And if we can showcase our expertise by speaking, by webinar presentations, I always encourage the community to be active on LinkedIn. You'll find me very active on LinkedIn for marketing your startup or your personal brand. And that's really important. It's not enough to be a genius in your head and nobody heard of you. So we have to market our content, our expertise through hackathons, through project presentations, through papers, right? Through networking in conferences and such. And we have to be able to speak and just get over that shyness and just ask our questions, however trivial they might be. Because for us, the outcome is about having that lucrative career or an average career. So we need to learn rapidly, even if it means overcoming our shyness and asking lots of questions. Any comments, questions before we go to the image generation task? We do have a nominal price tomorrow, but I'm telling you that price might be attractive for some students. It could be 1 lakh, 2 lakh. I think you have a big hackathon in Dayanand Sagar next month, and you should definitely participate in that as well. There are many tracks, I believe, and the prize money is bigger, but there's something more bigger at stake. You can make 1 lakh, 2 lakh anytime, by doing some freelance projects. But really, what we learn, As I said, if you are a very good AI scientist, you can showcase your skill set. The starting salary can exceed 1 crore. Okay. You can crack some Google hackathons and Google will hire you at a salary of your choice. Or many such companies exist. And of course, people can get direct US jobs, remote jobs. You can get a starting package of $100,000-$200,000, or you can launch a startup which can launch a ChatGPT competitor and become a unicorn in next 6 months. So the stakes are much higher than the hackathon prize money. That is what I want to convey. The stakes are what we know, what we can do very quickly, how much can we learn and grasp these cutting edge algos. Stakes are much higher than the prize money we are aspiring to. You can make 1 lakh, 2 lakh by doing freelance projects anytime. That's hardly anything really. So I would say our motivation should be learning and outcomes, not necessarily the prize money. And also, there is a saying, a person is about the company you keep. So you want to be part of top internship programs, right? Top angel communities or top hackathon groups where cutting edge work is going on, because you will become the average of your network, right? So that's the old grandma saying that you are the average of your 5 best friends. So you want to be in that community which is out to disrupt the world, right? So it's more about those things than the prize money itself. So tomorrow's session is about GPT, ChatGPT, Llama, Alpaca, as you can see here, right? So then Google Bard is also there. I have personally not explored it, or by all means check it out. Stable Diffusion, Delhi 2 are image generators, which I'll come to next. Then Runway is a company which was initially helping involved in Stable Diffusion, but now they have their own AI image generator model. Midjourney is another popular one. So these kind of generative algos / companies are breaking out and suddenly finding huge traction. I mean, OpenAI had a $1 billion VC investment from Microsoft in 2019. And I think 3 months back, Microsoft announced another $13 billion venture capital investment in OpenAI. So OpenAI is a company which had nominal revenues, but a massive market capitalization due to their word-dominating algorithms. And now Google had to issue a code red, and they are now trying to catch up quickly before they become slightly redundant. I mean, Google lost $13 billion in market cap the day their Google Bard demo was being conducted by their management, and it gave a wrong answer. And Google lost $13 billion in market cap on Nasdaq Stock Exchange. So this is the impact of this technology. Companies like Google are having to figure out if they will be relevant anymore, because with this conversational interface, the whole web search is changing. Microsoft has already integrated GPT into the Bing search engine, and probably their search will become more sophisticated than Google search. So hundreds of billions of dollars of ad revenue which search engines make is going to be impacted. We all are in India, and we all have to sort of come together, because all of this great stuff is happening by the likes of Google and OpenAI, Microsoft, and even the Chinese are doing good work with the Ernie bot from Baidu and Alibaba chatbot being under trial now. What about folks from India? What about us? What are India doing? So it is down to us to try to do at least some level of stuff, if not that level of work, right? As an ecosystem here. So any questions on some of these things I'm showing you? What are the topics of interest for tomorrow's Hack Day? Are we clear on the generative AI mission tomorrow? Even we have given some project ideas. You might have received this note from the professors, but this is not all inclusive list. There are like literally tens of thousands of ideas with generative AI which can be tried. So I'm interested in hearing, before I go to the image generation piece, what are some of the projects being already worked on for tomorrow's Hack Day? And of course, I'll be there on campus around maybe a little later by 9 a.m. tomorrow. And I believe you all will be starting at 7 a.m. So I'm interested in hearing what are some of the ideas being proposed or already started for tomorrow's Hack Day. Anybody wants to volunteer, or it is secret till tomorrow? Okay. So I assume you are keeping it sort of under the wraps till tomorrow, which is also fine. But ideas are generally not protectable because many people can get similar idea. It's more about execution. So, ma'am, if there's a list of project ideas which is being captured, maybe love to see that later today. So we
Sir?
had, yeah, go ahead, ma'am.
Students, you can share your ideas for tomorrow. I mean, it's not that others will take your ideas or anything. You can always share and get inputs right here so that outcome will be better.
Ma'am, do we have a sort of a spreadsheet where students have, or at least the coordinators are maintaining the project list, or?
Everybody is ready to share.
So, Dr. Vindhya, ma'am, I recommend we have a spreadsheet which coordinators can manage, and,
Sir?
we might have a shared spreadsheet which is accessible only by coordinators. So the teams can send their ideas to the coordinators, which the coordinators can then tabulate in a spreadsheet.
We'll do that. We'll capture that.
Okay, sounds good. So, okay, let me continue with the image generation piece now. So on our YouTube channel, you'll find a lot of webinars on stable diffusion. So if you have not heard of it, this is a very prominent open source, sort of algorithm launched by a company called Stability AI. And this allows you to write textual prompt to generate images. You can see some of the outputs here, right? So it is also prompt engineering. So what is prompt engineering? It is the input you give for a generative AI model, like a large language model like GPT, or a stable diffusion image generator. So from text, you want to produce images. So let me actually demo this on Hugging Face. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to just go to Hugging Face demo of stable diffusion. So let's say this is the API which Stable Diffusion has hosted on Hugging Face, which is also a leading API marketplace, right? So for AI models particularly. So I can say I like to walk on water and ice. This is a prompt, an input prompt I'm giving, just like in ChatGPT, I gave a prompt. And then I can also give a negative prompt. So please do not show rivers. Now I have to test. See, what did it say? The prompt says that if you notice carefully, enter a negative prompt. Now, if I say, please do not show rivers, I don't want it to use rivers in the imagery it generates. Now, I have to test, will negative of negative become positive? Okay, let's test it. So I'm going to now issue a generate image request. So this is a Stable Diffusion API, Stable Diffusion 2.1 version of Stable Diffusion algorithm hosted on the Hugging Face. So Hugging Face also has a lot of AI models which you can readily use in your project. Actually, if I go to Hugging Face homepage, so there are a lot of AI APIs here for a variety of tasks, right? You can simply invoke these. I think you have to create a Hugging Face account so that it can do some metering for your API calls and invoke these on the Hugging Face AWS platform. client-server architecture. So I'm waiting for this API to return. Hugging Stable Diffusion is open source code. You can download and directly integrate in your product. But you can call the API version of it here on Hugging Face as well. So you don't have to include it directly in your code. Okay, so you can see here, I think it included the reverse maybe. So, okay, so I said, please do not show reverse. So I think are these reverse? I think these are reverse, not necessarily C. So, so negative of negative became positive. So it is only showing me the reverse version of it. I'm going to reverse it now. Please show reverse. Let's see if it doesn't show reverse now, because negative, it is a negative prompt. So it takes that as a negative point. If I say please do not show river, I suspect negative of negative is becoming positive. So it was only showing me river version of it. So let's see what it generates now. I like to walk on water and ice, right? So that's my input prompt. So this whole thing is about how you prompt it. So there are dedicated startups which are advising customers on how to do prompting correctly. How you frame the input question is where the trick is. What kind of output will be generated? Okay, still processing. So this is the image generation paradigm. Okay. I think now it kind of, not sure which ones are, earlier it was reverse or these, maybe these are not reverse. These are more lakes and seaside perhaps. Okay, so I like to walk on water and ice. So that's why in every image it shows me both water and ice, right? So I can try asking something else. Let's remove this. We love food, particularly the Indian cuisine, right? We love food, particularly the Indian cuisines, right? So let's see what it generates with this. It has a regional aspect to it. It has to showcase food, particularly from Indian cuisines, right? So I'm giving it a context of Indian food. So it's about prompt engineering, and this itself is quite an art now. A lot of startups and systems which help you with creating intuitive prompts. So we had a product actually, but it is not down. When our web server crashed, it crashed all our CellStrat products also. So we have not yet revived them. We moved the web server to a different web host, but we haven't revived we had a meeting assistant product and a SD, Digital Diffusion product, but because Freedom GPT crashed our web server, so even the CellStrat website crashed with it. So now we have corrected it and created a different web server for Freedom GPT. So let's see what this generates. We love food, particularly the Indian cuisines. Well, there you go. So it shows you some Indian cuisines, right? Some curries and some rice and some chapatis maybe. So essentially, but if I just say we love food, of course, it will create global food images. And this one was more tailored to Indian dishes, if you will, right? So anyway, I hope you got the idea of how text to image is working. And by the way, there is also image to image, which Stable Diffusion supports. So let's see some of these imagery here. So there is a tool. So in stable diffusion, there is something called dream booth algorithm. Actually, dream booth works for all diffusion models. So stable diffusion is one kind of computer vision model called diffusion model. And dream booth is an algorithm which allows us to customize stable diffusion or kind of diffusion models to our custom images, right? So we can give certain input images and it will create images pertaining to our input images. Let's say I was a space tech company, right? Like NASA or the startup in India called Pixel or ISRO for that matter. So I want to create imagery of space pertaining to space. So I can feed some space images which I have and it will create images tailored on that. So Dreambooth allows you to customize a diffusion model like stable diffusion to generate imagery related to your domain-centric images. So you can see, so here, this is the input prompt, by the way. So these are suggested images, and this we still have a textual prompt. So in the Acropolis, so this, because these are input images, so this dog is now in the Acropolis, in a doghouse, swimming, sleeping, in a bucket, getting a haircut, right? So it learns that it combines the textual input prompt, which is this, with the suggested input images. So this is image to image, augmentation of text to image. This Freedom GPT, same thing. So I'll explain a bit how our diffusion model works shortly. So this is now control net. What is control net? Control net is another algorithm on top of diffusion model, which allows you to tailor the input image. So here you can see the input is hot air balloon with shooting stars digital art. If you read the text, hot air balloon with shooting stars digital art. So this is a UI where you can feed the input text. So this is conditioning of the input using control net algorithm. It's a neural network. I'm conditioning the output of the stable diffusion to hot air balloon with shooting stars digital art. So without the conditioning, it will produce this, but with the conditioning, shooting stars digital art, right? So it is conditioning the image output using control net algorithm. So here also, so here I am saying that produce this dog kind of images with Kenny edge map is a concept in computer vision. So, so based on it will extract the Kenny edge. It's a Kenny edge detection is a computer vision algorithm. From this image, it will extract the Kenny edge of this image, and it will produce other dogs but with similar Kenny edge. So you'll see the posture of this dog is same. It has to match this Kenny edge. So this is conditioning of this image generation using control net algorithm. So you can do this. I can, by the way, provide you code for many of these models for your jumpstart activity because these were recently presented in our webinars. So then for image generation, these are the three most popular algorithms. DALI 2 is available as an API from OpenAI again. If you have an OpenAI account, you put your credit card, debit card, whatever, it will allow you access to API, but is no need for that because stable diffusion is equally good and it is an open source free download code. Midjourney, I have to check how you can access Midjourney. So it will generate these kind of images using these image generation algorithms. So what is happening in diffusion model? Just I'll explain you on a very high level, not get into details of this. It is similar to GAN. GAN is if you have studied GAN, generative adversarial network. So there's a generator and discriminator. By lockstep training of a generator neural network and discriminator neural network, a GAN learns to generate fake images, right? That's what a GAN does. Here, what we do, we in diffusion models, which is the newer way of doing things in place of GAN, we take an input image X. We have a neural network here. This is the forward diffusion process at the top, and we lead to noise. So here input is the X, the image, output is a noise or a latent vector of noise Z. Okay, so this is what we do in forward diffusion neural network. We we train a model which is able to convert image to noise. Now, somebody might ask, why you want to generate noise? Noise means just a snowy image. It has nothing in it. Why would we generate noise? Because we want to train a reverse diffusion process. The bottom part is the reverse diffusion process. We take this noise generated as output of forward diffusion, and we train a reverse diffusion process, a neural network again, which takes us back to the image. So we started with image. We train a forward diffusion neural network to generate noise. Then we train a neural network which takes this noise and regenerates the input image or similar to input image. So from X, let's say this was the dog, right? This was the dog. This was this dog, right? And then we train a model which generates noise from the dog image, then recreates the dog from the noise in the reverse process. Forward process and a reverse process. The top one is the forward process. The below architecture is the reverse process. So we have a denoising neural network called denoising UNet or autoencoder. This is another kind of neural network to extract to transform the noise into a latent space. And then from that, we train a neural network which generates the image. So by doing this process of forward noise generation and reverse image generation, it is able to train a complete neural network which converts image to noise and noise to image. This is the goal of this task. Ultimately, we can throw away the forward diffusion process. Our inference or prediction model will be the below part only, where from this arbitrary Gaussian noise, we'll be able to generate images. So I'll be able to generate similar dogs, similar fashion design, similar housing design, similar people in images. It will be similar, not precise reconstruction. If it is precise reconstruction, is no use, right? Let's say I'm a shoe designer. I want to use these kind of models to generate new shoe design. I don't want to generate the same shoe which I trained it on, right? What's the use of generating same shoe? I wanted to generate similar shoes, but not precisely the same shoe. So these kind of techniques like GANs and now this stable diffusion are used by all kinds of global designers now, fashion designers, shoe designer, handbag designer, interior designers, okay? Interior designers or, just furniture designers or just content creation for magazines like India Today, Times of India, Wall Street Journal. They are all beginning to use these algos for image generation tasks, right? So I won't get into the detail of these algos. That will take a long time. You can check the webinars on the CellStrat YouTube channel, which we were presented by our community. So here you can see, just to go back to ChatGPT, if you ask the same question to ChatGPT versus the Freedom GPT product we launched. So if you can see, ChatGPT is restricting the answer because that's a very controversial question, right? It's literally crime what you are asking, but Freedom GPT happily answers it because it is unrestricted, unbridled. So I leave the ethical point of view, on the side, but this is what this client wanted. An uncensored chatbot. It shows you how to steal a spaceship and fly it to Mars. So this is some of the imagery produced by stable diffusion. Let's say landscaping task, right? So this is a landscaping task. Landscape generation. So actually right now I'm handling a query from a US client, and the task is they have satellite imagery. So it's a pretty large landscape company in US, it seems. And they are sitting on satellite imagery of landscapes. And they want us to train a stable diffusion model which can generate new landscape design from the satellite imagery of landscapes. So this is a landscaping gardening company. It's a pretty big one to be doing all these things technologically, if you will, right? So just imagine what all kind of industries are trying to adopt these algorithms. A landscaping company which is using satellite imagery, and now they want us to use AI to generate new kinds of landscape design. So I guess this is a big business. So another landscape design. So why I have these images? Because I was sending a proposal to this client in US that yes, indeed, we can develop a solution like this. So I found some images online and I just sent this to the client that we can generate this kind of imagery with the AI models. Again, landscaping. These are satellite images, by the way. And you can think of remote sensing, all those geologists and hydrogeologists and the satellites, space scientists. So from satellite, all these scientists are studying these for remote sensing, even oil exploration under the soil, mineral exploration, right? And gold and metal mining. You can imagine all these companies are using satellite imagery to inspect the soil patterns from Earth satellites. And then now, or even city planners, urban planning folks who want to design cities and communities, and use all of these images now can be introspected with artificial intelligence now. And also new imagery can be created. From this image, I could train models which can try to predict from these soil mapping patterns if this soil is fertile for agriculture, is there water below the soil, how deep the water is. From the image texture, AI will detect. Right? So incredible applications exist, incredible. City planning, urban planning and whatnot, traffic, planning, you name it. So these are actually the older GAN paper, actually these images. So this was from input to output, right? So a segmented image, this is the image segmentation output actually. The cars are segmented blue, the roads are purple. So this was image segmentation task, but from here I'm able to generate this real imagery. From this to a building design, black and white to color, color to black and white. So this is also generative AI. We were using generative adversarial networks before. Now we are using more modern stable diffusion kind of techniques. But GANs are still useful, like increasing the resolution of photos and such. Day to night, night to day, purse design, shoe design, fashion design. I had met the chief technical officer of Myntra a few years back as part of my AI initiatives. And Myntra had developed an AI team. In India, they could not find the talent, so they had hired a couple of PhDs in Silicon Valley. So Myntra was running an AI research group in Silicon Valley. So I met the chief data scientist who was visiting from there, and they were using generative adversarial networks for fashion design in Myntra. This was like 3-4 years back. So they have been trying these techniques since a long time. And so this is stable diffusion art. So all the artists, of course, are going to face competition from AI art. And some of these AI art is already being auctioned by auction houses like Sotheby's in London or Sotheby's in London. And then they're fetching good dollars as well. So AI generated art. I mean, you will be surprised that we are also using it in bioinformatics, generative AI, and protein design, because they were using stable diffusion for protein research. Pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer or Merck, they are beginning to use stable diffusion because it takes years to develop new pharmaceutical proteins, and now they're accelerating that with the stable diffusion kind of algorithm. So here we are showing image augmentation task, because biomedical image segmentation task. I mean, this is the problem was we get limited images because of privacy protocols. You can't get large data sets in healthcare industry because it's protected by healthcare regulation, particularly in developed markets like US and Europe. So if you want to have a larger data set for your AI model training, we do a task of AI called data augmentation with AI. So we have to generate new kinds of images from a limited sample which a healthcare customer might give us. Again, we can use stable diffusion or GANs to generate new kinds of biomedical images. And you can see here, I can augment it. So this is a doctor telling me, okay, photo of a lung x-ray. But this doctor now tells me, develop a photo of a lung x-ray with visible pleural effusion, which is some medical condition in the lung. So this doctor wants this lung X-ray to be overlaid with visible pleural effusion. I don't know medically what it means, but this is what the doctor ordered. And it is able to indeed create images with that medical condition superimposed on the lung. And this is, by the way, a stable diffusion use case. So synthetic, samples of biomedical are being generated, right? So I mean, you can see the potential is mind-boggling. This is same Meta and Llama. It's just a comedy image I found for my LinkedIn post. These are actual animals actually on which they have named these techniques. Alpaca is an animal like that, and Llama. Okay, so we have seen a couple of these things. I'm going to stop and slow down for a while and open it to questions. Most of you are still on the call, so I assume we have not gotten bored yet. So I'm really, really excited what you'll be able to demonstrate tomorrow. And well, if you are really driven, you got all night as well. So I always tell my community, we can all in comp science, there is no dearth of jobs. All of us can get decent jobs, have a nice life. So the question is, do you want some breakthrough career or a normal IT career? So those of you who aspire to a breakthrough AI career, launching startups and such, we have to do extraordinary work, right? So just doing regular stuff and our workload is not sufficient. We have to stretch our best, extreme boundaries and go beyond and above and beyond, and maybe even burn the midnight oil many a times to do breakthrough innovation. That doesn't happen in a regular career, right? So it's not for everybody. Yes, some of you may be driven to have that breakthrough innovation, or some of you may be content with a general or regular IT career, which is not bad by any means at all. Any questions, comments, anything you want to share from your side?
So, Vivek sir, though you're saying that for the past 2 days, students are not opening up or they're not talking here, but tomorrow I'm sure when you come here, you'll see some amazing work. I know some of the students who are already at it, and they are trying to give their best. And I'm sure you will also see some good innovation coming out of the event tomorrow. You'll be amazed at, the way the students understand these things and put things together to realize something really useful, one, to the society, otherwise to, at least I'm sure that it will help their profile to go up by a notch for sure. So tomorrow, I'm sure you'll not be disappointed.
No, not at all. I'm not disappointed at all. I'm very excited to hear your comment that tomorrow we are about to see some breakthrough work. And no, that's fine. I'm used to taking college lectures and students are quiet, but yes, in hackathons, we have seen they are able to do some remarkable work, which surprises us all the time. And I'm really excited for tomorrow as well. So not disappointed at all. That's not the point. And I'm really, really excited about tomorrow, actually. And I'm sure many students will show some good work. Any other thoughts, ma'am, or students? So let me just check if I sort of covered what I wanted to cover. It was meant to be an informal overview of generative AI industry. And I'm just checking my notes here. Meanwhile, feel free to offer your thoughts or questions.
Sir, one question.
Yeah.
Is quality of stable diffusion images better than generative adversarial networks?
Yes, indeed, because what has happened that this thing has overtaken GANs for the most part. Yes, indeed. In fact, yes, so this is much more sophisticated and it's producing much better images. So this has become, diffusion models have become the new sort of benchmark for generative AI in computer vision. but GANs are still being used, but we find that this is doing much more sophisticated job. So this was, in fact, there were three presentations on stable diffusion by one of our AI researchers, Mitadru. Actually, some of the AI interns who have presented CellStrat webinars are current students, actually. That ChatGPT deck, which I showed you, is a student from PES, in fact. And then his name is Akash Kamlesh. And this Mitadru Datta is actually a second year electronics engineering student from IIT Kharagpur. And he is one of our top AI researchers for stable diffusion right now. So in matter of couple of weeks only, this student has mastered this algorithm and did 3 webinars for us and went all the way to ControlNet Dreamboot, which is the more advanced algorithms within stable diffusion stack. So this is definitely better than GAN. So I'm saying first and second year students are demonstrating these webinars, and these are not all professional AI scientists, which I am showing to you. Some of these webinars are being presented by second, third year college interns. So by all means, students can do remarkable work, which I am seeing in these interns already. So this is the big 3 series webinar which Mitadru presented, and this is how he shows that he explained how image goes to noise, and then we run a reverse process to regenerate. So image goes to noise, and from noise we regenerate the image. So it's conceptually it is similar to GAN. In GAN we are a generator discriminator, but this is much more accurate model for image generation. We have frankly not benchmarked GANs against diffusion models, but our understanding is diffusion models are indeed far more accurate image generators than the traditional GANs. So basically it is using it is what it is doing is doing a Gaussian noise prediction. So in the forward process, it is predicting the probability of xt. So there's a multi-step, right? So till it arrives at noise from image. So in the forward process, from the previous time step, so it is time series in some way, it tries to predict the next level of noise, the next level of noise, the next level of noise, finally fully noise. Then the reverse probability prediction from the previous time step, it tries to predict the penultimate time step probability prediction. So from noise, it goes all the way back to image. From image to noise, a probabilistic prediction using Gaussian probability distribution, and then reverse process, again a Gaussian distribution. So these are concepts in statistics, actually, probability distribution, and these are also used in machine learning. So probabilistic probability distribution is machine learning, and I'm sure in the AI BTech we study all that. So this is, you can see that it's a Markov chain also, it's called Markov process. So we combine xt prediction from xt minus 1 over several time steps to then have a cumulative probability distribution model from first time step to the last time step. So a probability distribution is defined by the variance and the mean, and that's what we are discussing here. So I won't get into the algo. This is the equation for a Gaussian probability distribution. If you study the probabilistic modeling in detail, which is a key part of Bayesian learning and machine learning, you'll go through all these concepts in detail. This is the equation for a Gaussian probability distribution. That's where the n is used for Gaussian model. So we go from image to noise and then back from noise to image. That's what this diffusion model does. So if you see the 3 series webinar by Mitadru on our YouTube channel, this content was presented along with the related code, and I can share all these notebooks with whoever needs it for Jumpstart project. So we have a bunch of notebooks which these webinar presenters were presenting during these webinars. If anybody needs them for Jumpstart, so I am able to give you notebook for all of these, CellStrat webinars, whichever one you need, if you want to use that as your Jumpstart code for the hack. Okay. If you see those webinars, these PPTs were presented in great detail by the respective presenter. They've explained the algo. So this is one application of stable diffusion. Zoom in on an image or zoom out. So given an image, you can zoom in and also zoom out. Zoom out. Okay, from a satellite imagery, you're creating coastal lines. You can inpaint an image to finish incomplete images. So here, inpainting means I have replaced this car with a tank. I've replaced this fruit with this fruit. So this is inpainting task. Unfinished horse drawing, finishing a horse drawing. From MRI, brain MRI scans, they were able to produce imagery. So mind reading, basically. So brain signals are being captured and converted to imagery from MRI scan. Fashion industry design, medical imaging task. So a lot of interesting things are going on. So there is a fashion design, of course. These are AI generated models, both. So you can generate the human beings as well as the fashion clothing on them. So you can do new fashion design. So Mitadru is, of course, a IIT Kharagpur second year electrical intern, doing remarkable work in our community. So we have many interns from many colleges in Bangalore as well, who are part of our internship programs. So you can actually check out automatic 1111. So this one is a stable diffusion web GUI, where you can see various tasks of image extension. Let me actually find that somewhere. Yeah, automatic. Basically, I'm asking all of you hackers for tomorrow to learn these algorithms very fast and showcase some projects tomorrow. It's very challenging ask, but yes, that is the ask. In just a matter of 1 or 2 days. So you can give a pose input and it will create people with these poses actually. Animation, you can create animes. Right, so this automatic 111 is an extension of stable diffusion. There's a web UI. You can run this notebook directly and be able to use these directly in Google Colab or something. So animation task and lots of extensions of HD are already provided ready-made. Right, using the pose to create people in this pose. So a lot of stuff is there. It's too much to learn, but very little time, frankly. Okay. So these links you can find, stable diffusion extension, just Google, you'll find these. They're ready-made notebooks. A lot of the code is already provided to us. So we don't have that much problem in just reusing the code which exists on these websites or GitHub profiles and so on. Control net is, of course, a way of conditioning the stable diffusion in certain ways to control the image which is being generated. You can see these are called hog line maps in computer vision, something called hog line maps. So using these line maps, you can create interior design. Then HED head maps, these are called. Scribble maps, so it will create as per that scribble. Pose, human pose. You give this pose, it will extract the human pose and generate other people with that pose. Right? Again, from segmentation maps, you can create similar housing design. Depth map, you can use depth map for creating that depth perception in generated images. So this is, of course, control net, normal maps. So I can share notebooks for all of these projects with you if anybody wants. Just you have to contact me. Okay. So I think I like to stop here. We had a lot of discussion. It's been almost 2 hours. And quite a few of already on the call, still on the call. So I assume you enjoyed it. Any comments or questions?
It's a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abhijit. Appreciate it. Any other comments? by the audience? So if there are no questions, I wish you all the best and very, very excited. I'll see you early in the morning at DSCE campus. And I do urge you to take today's time. If it takes night, do some night outs. Let's show some cutting edge work tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So we'll wait to have you on campus tomorrow. Once you are here, we'll have a formal inauguration, and then anyways, the students will be around and they would have started by 7 a.m. Work will commence at 7 a.m. and whenever you join, we'll have the formal inauguration, and then the hackathon will continue through the day, and then by 5:36, we'll start the evaluation of the projects one by one, and by 7, we'll be ready to announce the results.
Sounds great, ma'am.
So thank you so much, sir, for your kind inputs, and I'm sure a lot of things to go and dwell upon, and I'm sure the students would have already begun their thought process on this, and tomorrow we'll be able to see some innovative work out there. Thank you so much, Vivek, sir, and the whole of CellStrat team for all your support and guidance once again. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you very much,
students.
ma'am. Thanks for having us and this collaborative opportunity. Look forward.
Same here.